But it is what it is, as they say.
Yeah.
So,
Sometimes
thank
you
you.
just have to grow up and stop enjoying yourself.
Yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, that seems to be the blueprint for how this thing works.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of That's Audiophiles. My name's John. His name is Andy. I once met him. It really surprised me. He put me in a bathtub, made me squeaky clean, really clean. More on that later. But first, we have some music to listen to. Andy, what have you got in your
I
basket of
have
delights?
in my basket of delights. I have a band I think you're familiar with, having discussed them very briefly with you. The band Cults.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
I
Well,
have, for some reason, got their eponymous debut album.
yes.
Um, I can't say that I'm over familiar with it. I do know it, but not really well. But there was a track on there called "Oh My God,"
Mhm.
and I don't even know if it was released soon, but it seemed to be around a lot at the time, and that's the strength of that. Got the album. Um, there's a track on there called "Go Outside." It's decent.
Yeah,
It's a bit hit or miss though.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
kind of 60s boy girl twee pop put through a sort of modernish filter.
Yep, spot on. Well, yeah, that track was everywhere over here at the time. But this is something from them a little bit later. So I'm gonna have you check out a track by them called Gilded Lily. And I'm curious, given what you know about their earlier stuff, what you take away from giving this tune a listen. So please go
Hmm.
off through that and let me know what you think.
Yeah, I'm interested to find out what this sounds like.
Cool.
Interesting start. There's an initial sort of whirring for a few seconds, and then in comes this piano that's quite reverbed, which gives it that kind of eerie atmosphere. I'm thinking haunted Victorian mansion, dust sheets over all the furniture, and creepy ceramic faced dolls. Of course, nothing to do with that, I'm sure. But that's where he sounds, keyboardy synth line, then sort of went and did its stuff, and almost sounded like a bow and a saw. That wow, nice, again odd noise, but yeah, it's full of atmosphere already. It's quite plodding, but so we'll see how it goes. Thumbnail's not helping either, to be fair.
Now it's been long enough to talk about it. I've started not to doubt it. Just wrap my head around it. I remember when you told me it's an everyday decision. But with my double vision, how was I supposed to see the way?
Stop it. It's not a very long song. Um, her vocals. I know the debut album I heard did have sometimes this reverb. I think they've double tracked it as well, so it's got this sort of dreamy quality to it. Um, and it's interesting because in the verse bit, it's this ponderous, plodding, quite sort of melancholy, and then it changes and lifts, and it has that airiness to it. Just shows you the different settings, what you can get from the same vocals, basically. Although she does hit a couple of big notes in there, also big for her output. Um, I like the way it just changed up, and then this piano that was all reverbed and quite eerie before just become a straight piano, and it's basically, I think it's doing that. I couldn't hear anything else. The bass is this pounding, thunderous piano chords. Then you've got this synth line that's going, which again sort of like sort of twitters and sort of sparkles, and then this other synth line as well that's kind of rising up through the scales, which gives this uplifting effect. So you get that shift, and you get the second shift as she hits that. Is it always when she sings? Yeah, really. And then we drop back down here, so it's nice light and shade, and quite sort of powerful. The contrast.
Every city's got a graveyard, a service bar paid for. Now I'm sleeping in the backyard, passing out as night turns into day.
I don't much of the lyrics here at all. Her voice there sounded quite sort of childishy, sing along. But this bit here, we've just got that one synth line in the main. It kind of feels quite Vangelis like to me. Yeah, it's interesting. It just started to find myself drifting off a little bit because it's quite cinematic in a way, the music as well. Yeah, it's interesting.
Go and set your mind as long as it needs to be. Turn the phones and light to
It's busier. That was an abrupt ending as well. Yeah, that last bit sounded just more busy. There's a packing more into it. I'm not sure what the hell this song is about. I get the feeling it was like someone expressing sorrow or whatever in the sort of versy bits, and then there's almost like an exclamation in the chorus, like someone throwing their arms up. Relationships, I guess, usually the case. But yeah, this is really interesting compared to their debut album. It's the only one I know. It's kind of 60s twee pop, then put through a sort of slightly modern filter. Her voice does sound pretty much the same, but it's just used differently. But this is definitely a different sound and much more interesting. It's got that element of a bit more dream pop to it. You could imagine this being played in the Bang Bang Bar in Twin Peaks. Easily. Um, don't know what the reference is with Gilded Lily. I know it's Shakespearean. But apart from that, I'll have to get me some enlightenment. And to do that, let's go back and speak with Andy.
All right, welcome back. So you went off, revisited this band, and their more recent stuff, comparatively speaking, to their debut. What did you make of Gilded Lily?
Well, I wasn't expecting death metal. No.
It's like, shit, what link did I give you?
48 seconds of no. They've changed. No, yeah, this is interesting, really interesting listen, actually. So song starts with this high-pitched sort of whirring sound almost. And just a few seconds of that, and then comes this heavily reverbed piano. That instantly sort of put me in mind of a haunted Victorian mansion with dust-sheeted furniture and creepy ceramic-faced dolls. Obviously, it's got nothing to do with the song, but that's what it did. So it has oodles of like melancholy and atmosphere in that sound. It's sort of ingrained in it straight away. And that, to be fair, the thumbnail wasn't helping me either. Um, so yeah, the whirring continues though, and it starts to sound. It sort of then starts to oscillate, and it sounds almost like bow on saw action. That which again is another
Yeah.
sort of eerie stroke melancholy sound as well. Check out Julien Caro's Delicatessen for some fantastic saw playing on that film. Anyway, the vocalist begins, and there's shed loads of reverb, I think double tracking on the vocal track. Now, this is something which they use not all the time, but in parts in their debut album. But here, it's turned up to 11. It really is. So with the piano kind of almost plodding away and her vocals, it has a sort of contemplative feel to it. I got this sort of David Lynch Twin Peaks idea of this beautiful but sad music being playing over images of people crying in the Bang Bang Bar that works so well, and in Lynch's sort of melodramatic TV style. And this would just fit right in with that. It's a dream poppy nest to it as well. So she's singing away, and as she exclaims something about with my double vision, how was I supposed to see the way? The song then expands and rises. The piano goes from that sort of reverb sound to a straight sound, and is these thunderous chords. And they're basically, because I couldn't hear it unless otherwise, but I couldn't hear a bass, so I think it's really doing the bass part with the piano, and it's met with a twittering synth line that's sort of going away, and electronic. Well, it sounded to me like a synthetic electronic drum beat. It may not be, but it sounded like everything in this song was composed electronically, as it were. There's also another keyboard part, which kind of starts rising up the scales, and it's all merged together, but it gives this lifting feel. But so it's still retaining the same tempo as before, but the whole sort of purpose of it is no longer plodding, but it feels more like purposely striding. And it does feel expressive as well with the way the synth rises and with her vocals. Like someone standing there with their arms open, stretched out. Haven't I given enough is repeated. And then she hits a big note. Well, I say big note. It is a big note in terms of her range, it's decent. She hits this big note on always the full width. Now I listened, she repeats this line a lot, and I never got the last two words. To me, it sounded like always the full with the smallest smart. I think this is the chorus at this point, and I think it is. So then we go back into the plodding, I say plodding, it's a harsh word, but you know what I mean, the sort of steady piano reverb briefly. And there's something about her sleeping in the backyard, which fair enough. And then we get the sort of given enough refrain again. And then we get the chorus again. And I'm still getting the smaller smart, so God knows what she's saying. But then they also get a line after which she says, "I know you'll take me with you," and I've absolutely no chance of the rest of the words. And at this point, I kind of give up on the words, but we then segue into this bit, which is just that sort of twittering, which I call like it's almost like Vangelis synth line. You get that sort of idea of motion, which he did in sort of like his film soundtracks, you know, Chariots of Fire and Blade Runner. So again, it's that sort of motion to it. And this part feels quite bridgy, and you can almost feel there's another synth comes in then. It's all starting to wind up for the big finish. And then we go back into the sort of given enough motif and chorus. And it does feel like there's added oomph to this final chorus. There seems to be more keyboard stroke synth parts sort of swirling around and just filling and going and layering and going up and up. And then we get another abrupt finish, just like the meter ran out. Someone again hasn't paid their bills. or you know, dad's just turned up and the party is over. You've got to go home. It's something like that. You know, they had that abrupt feeling.
Uh-huh.
So this, yeah, really is a different sound from their first album completely. Completely. It's quite grandiose without being bombastic. I really enjoyed the atmosphere, the sound created, and the dynamics. Her voice is quite airy, and in the sort of poppy sort of tunes, it can be a bit weak. Sometimes it can be sweet and charming. Sometimes it's a bit twee. A whole album of that stuff, that debut album, was a bit much. You know, there's tracks that are decent, but the whole lot is a bit much. But I think this sort of music suits her voice more, actually. And so it worked really, really well. I think the whole thing was quite cinematic in scope as well. It definitely sort of made me kind of see pictures, so I didn't want to see. But yeah, so I really enjoyed this. I'm struggling because I struggle with the lyrics. I'm struggling to see where, you know, Gilded Lily comes in.
Yeah.
Interestingly, I know that Gilded Lily comes from Shakespeare. It's one of the phrases he invented, you know,
Yeah.
like wild goose chase and cruel to be kind and wear your heart on your sleeve and all that sort of stuff. And my favorite, something wicked this way comes, which is, oh, I love that. I mean, he also invented the word swagger, which this has a bit to it, so I thought was quite
Yeah.
appropriate.
Yeah.
He also invented the word addiction.
I think
There
he
you go.
invented the word bedroom as well. If I recall correctly from an English course that I took.
And critic and bandit. And
Yeah.
this is the bizarrest one of all, lonely. He
Yeah.
invented the word lonely. I was like, wow. There's so much. But anyway, yeah. So yeah, thumbs up for me and from the Bard.
Excellent. I'm glad that you liked it, and I'm glad that you sort of gave this band a revisit, having only listened to their debut album. So see how they've changed, and as you've noted, there has been some sort of evolving. They didn't abandon their sound; they just kind of grew on it, right?
Yeah.
Or from it. So yeah, good song. I'm glad you enjoyed it. You pointed out a lot of the things that I really am fond of in this song as well. So. Cults. They are an American rock band formed in New York City in 2010. They're comprised of Brian Oblivion and Madeline Fallen. They're
I didn't know that. Oh, that's funny.
yes. Their sound has been categorized as indie pop, indie rock, dream pop, synth rock, twee pop, experimental pop, and psychedelic pop. The band first rose to prominence upon releasing their debut extended play Cult's 7-inch in 2010 on their Bandcamp page. They subsequently signed to English singer Lily Allen's record label In the Name of, an imprint of Sony Music, to release their eponymous debut album in 2011. A song from the album Bad Things was sampled by American rapper J. Cole for his 2013 single She Knows, on which they were credited as featured artists. Yeah, J. Cole is really popular over here. I don't know if he's made even a dent in the UK.
No, I can't say I know of him.
Yeah. Cults formed again in 2010 while guitarist Brian Oblivion, real name Ryan Matos, and singer Madeline Fallen both from San Diego, were students in New York City. Oblivion went to New York University to study documentary cinema, while Fallen went to the New School. My sister-in-law went there, great university. Fallen had previously recorded with punk band Youth Gone Mad on the album Touching Cloth. I believe we've talked about Touching Cloth before, you and I. Cults released an EP on Forest Family Records, Cult 7-inch, with the track Go Outside, recorded by Paul Kostabi at Thunderdome Studios. And the album earned the title of the Best New Music by Pitchfork. So take that, I suppose, with a grain of salt, yeah, and a lot of spit. They toured supporting the Richie Fallon's band with overlapping members for 6 months before signing to Itno/Sony. Their eponymous debut studio album was released on June 7th, 2011. The album received generally positive reviews, and a second Best New Music from Pitchfork was earned for the track Abducted. The band was chosen to record at the ATP I'll Be Your Mirror Festival, curated by ATP and Portishead in September 2011 in Asbury Park, New Jersey, and also by Battles to perform at the ATP Nightmare Before Christmas Festival that they co-curate in December of 2011 in Minehead, England. Are you familiar with the Minehead area?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, there you go. Excellent. Me, not so much. In 2013, they were featured alongside Amber Kaufman on J. Cole's Born Sinner album, which peaked at #1 on the Billboard 200. The song later peaked at number 90 on the Billboard Hot 100. Also in 2013, the band released their second album, Static, in the aftermath of the duo's breakup, and its reviews were generally favorable. And I think by breakup, they mean as like a couple, not the actual breaking up of the band.
Right.
So methinks they dated for a bit there. On October 6th, 2017, the band released their third album, Offering. More on that in a bit. On September 18th, 2020, the band released their fourth album, Host. On August 2017, the next year, their single Always Forever was certified gold by the Recording Industry Association of America, and later was certified platinum on July 18th, 2022. So the album on which this track features, Offering, I alluded to it a moment ago, it received generally favorable reviews from critics, from Metacritic, which we all know about how they assign, up to 100 based on an aggregate of mainstream reviews. The album received an average score of 71 out of 100 based on 9 reviews, which indicates general favorability. Under the Radar reviewed it 7 out of 10 stars, while AllMusic gave it 4 out of 5 stars, and Drowned in Sound graded it an 8 out of 10. Matthew Neal of the aforementioned Drowned in Sound would sum up the album in his review by writing, "The offering, then, is hope. Against the wall, against all odds, against a world in flames. It might sound trite, but for a band long since written off as blog buzz ephemera, it frames their return in the redemptive context it deserves, because it just so happens that Offering is also Cult's finest work to date. At their best, they offer a hymn to the inexhaustible spirit of hope. At the very least, they have proven they can survive the whims of an increasingly fickle market. I'll call that a win." I think it's a pretty nice way to sum things up. Olivia Horn of Pitchfork, wrote in her album review, "This time around, cults have started to turn their faces toward the sun. The songs on Offering are fuller and brighter than they've ever been, leaving behind sinister samples and morbid imagery, and making good on the promise of up-tempo revelry that Go Outside offered." Writing for Under the Radar magazine, Matt the Raven, interesting name, awarded the album a 7 out of 10 and wrote the following: "Collectively, the 11 tracks form a well-produced indie pop album consisting of light and airy synth-based melodies and breezy indie guitar strums over polished bass lines. Cults do a good job of distilling their influences: the Motels, Hooverphonic, Masonic, Beach House, Baltimore's Beach House, into original compositions with clever pop sensibilities. So let's jump into these lyrics that you didn't quite catch all of, and I don't blame you. A voice that kind of the airiness sacrifices, I think, some of the enunciation on
Yes.
some of these words. So now it's been long enough to talk about it. I've started not to doubt it, just wrap my head around it. I remember when you told me it's an everyday decision, but with my double vision, how was I supposed to see the way? Haven't I given enough, and that repeats 3 more times? Always the fool with the slowest heart, but I know you'll take me with you. We'll live in spaces between walls. Every city's got a graveyard, a service bought and paid for. Now I'm sleeping in the backyard, passing out as night turns into day. Haven't I given enough, repeats 3 more times. Always the fool with the slowest heart, but I know you'll take me with you. We'll live in spaces between walls. Go and stretch out my arms long as they need to be. Turn off all alarms and lie to me. Go and stretch out my arms long as they need to be. Turn off all alarms and lie to me. Haven't I given enough, repeats 3 more times. Always the fool with the slowest heart, but I know you'll take me with you. I know I'll take you with me. Always the fool with the slowest heart, but I know you'll take me with you. We'll live in spaces between walls. So, when asked about the meaning of the song, the band described it as such. We love that song too. It was one of the last ones we wrote, so it's still fresh for us. I guess it's kind of about getting older and people moving out of your life and knowing that you'll still be a part of each other's lives forever. It's weird to write this stuff down. So I guess it's, as they say, kind of growing old and apart, but not wanting to lose. Maybe you lose the physical connection or the availability to physically connect, but there is still this emotional friendship that kind of, though it physically grows apart, still exists. So there you have it.
Yeah, I guess if you feature in somebody's life in any way, there'll be always be an emotional contact when they're in your memories alone.
Yeah, exactly.
And if it shaped you in any way. Yeah, I got from the song, you reading the lyrics then, a sort of movement, whether it be physical or emotional, away from another.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's interesting what they said.
Yeah, it is. And as I'm getting older, it becomes easier and easier for me to connect with this kind of stuff because there are, some of my best friends. I don't see them as much as I used to, but that's understandable because we now have spouses and careers and all this shit that comes up, as part of life. But it is what it is, as they say. So
sometimes you just have to grow up and stop enjoying yourself.
Yeah, unfortunately, that seems to be the blueprint for how this thing works. But yeah, man, thank you so much for giving this a listen and looking at it through the lens of someone who is only familiar with their earlier stuff and even not too much, because as you said, I'm not going to sit down and just listen to this album on repeat over and over again, or that album, I should say. This one is a bit more mature, is a bit more accessible. And I'm glad you liked it so much. So thank you so much for giving it a listen. Guys out there in the listening audience, please let us know what you thought of this track, of this group, if you're familiar with any of their works. Whatever you feel like getting off your chest, please feel free to do so down in the comments field below. We do enjoy so much hearing from you guys. Also, like, share, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Any of those things, or all of them, go a long way in kind of propagating the channel on YouTube, bringing more ears and opinions into the mix, which we always appreciate. And hopefully John and I will catch all y'all in growing numbers on the next installment of the Audiophiles. We'll see you later, guys.